Greetings, Starfighters, and welcome to what I really hope is the episode that posts on the 5th anniversary of Shameless Cashgrab. And fittingly enough, it's the 5th movie of the set, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. No, not that one. This one features Kelly LeBrock and Robert Davi. Demon She Bad Guy. Yeah, was not really expecting to be seeing him again so soon, but hey, Swamp Shark turned out better than I expected, so who knows? I mean, granted, this is a Paul Matthews movie here, so let's be honest, it has a lower bar to cover, get over. Yeah, you can tell that I was kind of sick when I was filming this and last episode's video segment, aren't you? It's painfully obvious, isn't it? So I have watched The Sorcerer's Apprentice from 2001. Plot summary courtesy of Letterboxd. Every 100 years, the evil sorceress Morgana returns to claim Fingal's talisman from Merlin, with which she intends to destroy the world. For the last 1400 years she has failed, now she intends to conquer all. Young Ben Clark moves with his parents to a new town where he befriends his elderly magician neighbor, Milner. Ben has a natural talent for magic and wants to learn all that he can from this old man. Ben carries the same scar as the original staff bearer 1400 years before. Both Morgana and Milner, who is revealed to be Merlin, see this as a sign that this time the battle between good and evil will be stronger and harder than ever. Ben must make his own choice between good and evil as he is drawn into a battle and must draw on his own spirit and magic to decide which path to follow, and hence the fate of the world as we know it. You know, I'd forgotten that the plot summary I copied was so detailed, and now I just realized that I've lost about 3 or 4 jokes from my script. Oops. So, this is our second outing this season with the character of Merlin. I expect this to be about as bad as Merlin the Return. Not better, not worse, just as bad. We'll see how that goes. The opening is actually not too terrible. Definitely low budget, but that's to be expected. We get some people running through the woods with torches, and one of them, Fingal from the summary, is carrying a staff that appears to be something of a burden for him. And turns out that this is a staff that they are trying to hide from Morgana. Another returning Arthurian character that was featured in Merlin the Return. She's played by a more well-known actress in this one, so she'll actually do stuff. So, speaking of stuff happens, and the group splits the staff with the crystal on top, I guess that would be the talisman from the plot summary, going one way, and the rest being taken to Merlin by Fingal's request. Saying that even if he fails to hide the crystal, Morgana will be stronger, but not strong enough that she can't be defeated by the rest of the staff later. This part's actually better than I'm describing it, mostly. The costumes don't entirely work for me, and the acting is kind of meh, but there's fairly effective setup being done here. Not too much exposition, an established thread, a mystery about what all the staff can do, etc. However, this is a Paul Matthews produced and David Lister directed children's movie, so I imagine this will all start to suck before too long. Still, the fact that it's not utter shit already is an accomplishment that should be acknowledged. I am very much a credit where credit is due kind of guy. Morgana officially enters the film here, and... okay. Is it just me, or has there been a surprising amount of cleavage this season so far? I figure at least one screen cap of Kelly LeBrock as Morgana has popped up here already, but I mean there was also the stepmom in The Magic Door, and a bunch of extras in Merlin the Return, and that's just the ones popping into my head as I type this. Let us not forget us almost seeing the fairy's butt in Dazzle. Well, almost seeing her whole butt, I should say. Do not reverse those words, that makes the sentence completely different. I did not expect there to be so many low-cut outfits in a season of movies marketed towards children. We get a fight scene that's about as close to epic as you can get with the kind of budgets these movies have. I was honestly surprised they went that far.
decent amount of extras, swords, axes, shields, bows and arrows, that don't look like they were made of cardboard. I mean, I've certainly seen a lot better, but I've also seen worse. After we see Fingal hide the crystal and it starts glowing red. Sorry folks, as per usual, I suddenly start producing a lot more mucus the second I hit the record button. It's like my nose is trying to sabotage the show. So yeah, after the crystal starts glowing red, we fade to a family in a car. They drive up to what I'm pretty sure is actually the same house from the last movie, just with different yard decorations and fencing added. As if I needed any reminders of fucking Dazzle right now. Ugh. This is where we meet Ben, mentioned from the summary. The actor was also in Merlin the Return, where he was an American, inexplicably, and I think he may also have been dubbed. But not this time. Although, if this is his actual voice, somehow his real accent is worse than his fake one from the previous movie. Well, the previous movie with Merlin in it. We also see Robert Davi raking or sweeping or something. He doesn't look like the wizard from the DVD covers yet, so we're probably supposed to not know that he's Merlin yet. Again, though, he's shown in full white wig and fake beard on the DVD covers, so, why bother? Ben is annoyed that he has to live in a new house because of his father's new job. Fairly stock family movie plot. He goes to introduce himself to Davi as his new neighbor, and this is where he finally talks in the movie, and I'm not sure how to describe Davi's accent here. He's either trying to do an Irish accent and failing, or trying to do a British accent and being mediocre. I actually mentioned this on a Discord server I'm on once, and I just said, I can't tell if this is an okay British accent or a terrible Irish accent, to which some people were going, why not both? We cut to Ben starting at his new school, and of course, there's a bully. 100% chance the bully gets some comeuppance by way of magic at the end, so unless he does something particularly interesting, I'm just going to ignore him for the rest of the episode. Morgana re-enters the picture, along with a couple of henchmen who I'm sure will be ineffectual in the kind of way that makes you wonder why they weren't killed ages ago. Like Crunk, but without the himbo charm. Or any charm for that matter. She's watching Merlin from the back of a car with binoculars and decides that Ben, who Merlin gave a ride to after the bullies from earlier let the air out of one of his bike tires, is Merlin's new apprentice. He isn't, not yet anyway, so we're looking at a self-fulfilling prophecy here. And I was more right than I thought, because the very next scene has Merlin using the crystal from earlier in the movie to zap Ben with red energy. At the same time, the staff portion of the, staff starts glowing in a museum. We learn shortly after this that Morgana's henchmen are a cat and a rat who have been turned into humans and apparently don't like it very much. I had thought that this might become important later, but not really. In fact, it was barely even used for comedy, which kind of makes you wonder why they did it in the first place. During this scene, Morgana announces that she, and these are her exact words, is going to, I already mentioned it for the plot summary, but screw it, I want to use this joke again. She's going to conquer the world.
I am a banana!
To which the rat henchman goes, whatever turns you on. This is what passes for comedy in this movie. We go back to Ben and Merlin, and Ben trying to get Merlin to teach him some tricks. Ben at this point still thinks that Merlin is just a really good stage magician, and for that matter doesn't know his name yet, despite them having spoken several times over the past few days in universe. I'm realizing this is kind of a common problem with these Paul Matthews movies, where they don't actually say the characters' names out loud until more than 15 to 20 minutes in. Anyway, Merlin repeatedly refuses because this movie needs some kind of drama. After this, we get a flashback to the battle scene from earlier, or rather later on into said battle, and here we see why Morgana is so interested in Ben, and it has to do with a scar that was mentioned in the plot summary already, and oh boy. This is what I get for writing the script while I watch the movie. Okay, so yeah, this establishes the whole reincarnation aspect of it, and now I gotta try and figure out where to pick up. Can you tell I've been doing this show for 5 years? Oh my god. Anyway, I've said that I'm a credit where credit is due kind of guy, and I'm going to give credit to the movie here. It's actually established pretty well here, the reincarnation aspect of the plot. It's actually done in a fairly solid show don't tell kind of moment. It's undermined somewhat by the villain not being very interesting. I imagine the reason she shows so much cleavage is because otherwise you'd forget about her. And the Spirit Halloween wig on Ben's past warrior life self isn't very great. But it's still much better than I've come to expect from a Paul Matthews movie. Kudos. This makes exactly 3 things that I have liked this season. This season that is half over already. Oi. Anyway, Morgana zaps and kills the companion of the staff bearer with green lightning.
Well, suddenly I have a refreshing mint flavor.
And then we fade back to Merlin, sad about the memory of the event that he wasn't even at.
How did you know about the parts you weren't there for?
Did I really just do 2 clip jokes in under a minute? Yes. Am I sorry? Not even a little. There's a girl named Nicole in this movie too. Not the one on my shirt from the intro, but a classmate of Ben's who's basically here to be the girlfriend by the end of the movie. I've not mentioned her before now because she hasn't actually done much of anything, but I'm mentioning her now since it's here more than a third of the way in. We start to get some actual backstory for her. Not that it's important, but at least it upgrades her from set dressing to an actual character. Here's hoping she doesn't just get kidnapped towards the end of the movie and actually contribute something to beating Morgana. I mean, probably not, but we can hope. The comeuppance to the bully comes a little earlier than I expected, and Merlin does it instead of Ben. How no one except Ben saw him do it is beyond me, but I think Ben is finally starting to grasp that maybe Merlin is more than just a stage magician. About 2 impossible things later than most people would have, really. This kid obviously went to the Dana Scully School of Skepticism. I cannot believe I got that sentence out in 1 take. Holy shit. While riding his bike home, Ben is waylaid by Morgana, who tries to convince him that she can help him hurt the bully. So, starting to tempt him with evil instead of trying to kill him. In concept, this isn't a bad idea storytelling-wise. In practice, between the outfit she's wearing and the tone of voice she's using, I feel like Ben should start yelling, "I need an adult." What is it with Paul Matthews movies and women acting weirdly sexual around preteen/teenage boys? Anyway, the temptation lasts all of 30 seconds before Ben sees Morgana's henchman's eyes, which, depending on the scene, are still animal eyes, rightly freaks out and takes off as fast as he can. To which Morgana says, "I'll have him for breakfast." Really not helping with the creepy Mary Kay Letourneau vibes here, movie. And if you don't get that reference... Fuck, I'm old. Anyway, we get a scene with someone singing. The movie wants us to believe it's Robert Davi, but the voice just does not match at all, at least not to my ear. Shortly after this, the movie finally deigns to tell us the name Merlin's been going by, Milner, which we already knew because of the plot summary I read earlier. And Ben uses it casually, so he learned it off screen. Now, obviously, not everything needs to be seen on screen. There are a good number of things that can, and in some cases should be left inferred. But I feel like maybe one main character learning another main character's name shouldn't be one of them. Especially if they meet for the first time on camera. By the way, this first use of Merlin's totally clever pseudonym comes in at almost 40 minutes into an 85-minute movie. That's including credits. Eventually, Merlin starts teaching Ben magic. There's some poor communication, blah blah. Morgana's henchmen try to break into Merlin's house, but it doesn't go well. There's a bike chase scene involving Ben and the bully, plus the bully's friends, that realistically should have resulted in more serious injuries than it did. Ben and Merlin have a falling out because the plot says so. Morgana and Merlin come face to face. Morgana's motivations for taking over the world are basically the same as Dr. Horrible's. And... oh, okay, this bit's clever. Merlin hid the crystal in a safe with a lock that's computer operated. Morgana's magic won't work on it. Granted, it would have been nice if the movie had established earlier that magic doesn't really work on more advanced technology, so it's not as good a scene as it could have been, but props to not going the obvious route of having Merlin in the modern day be a full-on Luddite. Shortly after this reveal, Morgana zaps Merlin, then tells her henchmen to wake him up. They say that he's dead. We know this isn't the case, 1, because he hasn't gone full Gandalf like on the cover art, and 2, we can still see him breathing. Whoops. Okay, the next scene after Morgana and the henchmen have left, and Ben comes in and helps Merlin up, we learn that he was faking being dead. Okay. However, that might have had more of an impact had it not been so obvious he was still breathing, that the 2 henchmen who were kneeling right next to him should have noticed. Especially the one who was transformed from a cat, because throughout the movie he's been made fun of for taking copious notes of Merlin's house while staking it out for Morgana, so we know he has at least some attention to detail. Anyway, Merlin tells Ben to get to the museum where the staff part of the, staff is, and Ben manages to get there just a minute or 2 after Morgana, who drove there in a Range Rover. You know what, I'll roll with it. Ben could have taken a shortcut that a car would be too big to get through. Not everything is a plot hole. We're not CinemaSins over here. Ben goes inside, unaware Morgana has seen him go in. She tells her henchman who was a cat to change back into a cat and cause a distraction inside. That's probably the most clever villain plan I've seen for one of these movies so far. The distraction works, and Morgana enters the museum and magically changes into her outfit from the flashback scenes because... Anyway, since she got the crystal off screen by just blowing up the safe or something, and boy, wouldn't that have been a fun thing to actually see, so of course the movie doesn't show it, she's using it to look for the rest of the staff, which Ben is looking for himself while talking to his father, who is the museum's curator. As she walks through, she brings various wax statues of ancient warrior types to life. This could lead to a really cool fight sequence. I mean, it won't, but it could. The issues between Ben and his father are not resolved at all, despite what the score wants us to think, just before Ben sees the staff glowing. Ben finally figures out that Milner was Merlin, and after Morgana zaps his father, he grabs the staff, which immediately leads to a flashback to the guy with the matching scar and blonde wig, as he runs and is tripped by a cat, and then comes to his feet in the museum, where he gets attacked by one of the animated wax statues. And then later the others. He fights them, of course, one at a time, and they are so easily defeated that they get taken out without the warrior even using the weapon he's holding in the process. And then he just turns into Ben. Okay, for a second I thought they were going for some time travel shit here, but whatever. In fact, I was totally willing to roll with that, because of the magic and the shape-shifting established in the movie. But then, how did... why not just have him turn into the warrior in the room immediately after he grabs the staff? Why try to fake us out? Why try to give us a time travel fake out here? The scene, it raises questions that I don't think the movie has the time or the inclination to answer. There is really no reason I can think of to give us a fake out where it looks like there might be time travel and Ben is going to get to meet his past self. Actually, that could have been a pretty cool sequence. Oh, okay, so that's why they didn't do it. Got it. I just answered my own question. Anyway, Merlin arrives in full Merlin attire, robe, long hair, beard, etc. Why look like this now? I don't know. So Merlin and Morgana walk in a circle around Ben, who is in danger of being corrupted by the power of the staff, but we all know that won't happen. This isn't that kind of movie. Also, the camera work in this scene is making me a little bit dizzy, which doesn't help with the tension they are clearly going for here. And it all ends in a big anticlimax as Ben just zaps the crystal away from Morgana to reattach it to the staff. Just like that. And her reaction? Oh, right, I already used an MST3K clip this episode. Her reaction? Dull surprise! After this, Merlin zaps her and she flies through a portal thingy. Her henchmen just disappear. Merlin tells Ben he's the staff bearer and he can do what he wants with its power, but if he tries to use it for ill, Merlin will be obligated to try and stop him, even though he'd almost certainly die in the process. Ben decides he doesn't want that kind of power and gives the staff to Merlin. On its own, the scene is fine. No real complaints. I just wish it were in a better movie. Oh, for the record, by the scene is fine, I mean from after the henchmen disappear to when Ben gives Merlin the staff. Okay. Merlin disappears after insisting that Ben has a good soul and a kind heart. I wish the movie had shown us that. To be fair, it's not like he's a total twazak or anything. He just has some issues stemming from being uprooted from his old home and friends because of his dad's job. But good soul and kind heart? Or whatever the exact wording Merlin used was. You could have said good heart and kind soul. I don't know. Maybe? It's not impossible. I'm just not convinced. Anyway, he talks to Nicole again before the movie officially ends, and she added pretty much nothing to the plot. She was neither kidnapped nor contributed to Morgana's defeat, as I suggested were the two options. So, I guess props to the movie for subverting expectations on there by taking the third option of having her do approximately fuck and all. Ben and Nicole kiss, Ben scares off the bully from harassing another child. The end. Random thoughts I had while watching the movie. Shocking no one, even when I included the year in the search term, I still mostly got image results for the Nicolas Cage movie. You know, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure every movie on this set so far, except Merlin the Return, has had the same style of opening credits. Even the music is similar. A bit more drums this time, though, I think. It is better. Not great, but better. The bar is pretty low, but Robert Davi was actually not terrible in this movie. Given he's a conservative actor, I'm assuming this means this was filmed pre-9/11, and thus he hadn't completely lost his marbles yet. It's not up there with when he was on the TV series Profiler. Anyone remember Profiler? But I'm pretty sure that show is where he peaked. When the two finally meet in movie, Morgana busts Merlin on his lazy pseudonym, Milner. In a better movie, this would be funny, but as it stands, I'm reminded of the Isle of Rangoon review of Christmas is Here Again, where Starchibald chides the movie for having the nerve to suddenly become smugly self-aware after having played all its cliches painfully straight for over a half hour. And now it's time for this episode's FUJK. Actually, this is going to be the last one of these I do. It's been emotionally exhausting going over this author's problematic politics as well as the problematic aspects of her work I had previously enjoyed. I managed to binge the first 4 Harry Potter novels between seeing the first movie in the theaters and opening day for the second film. It's also been difficult to find supporting links for some of the more abstract stuff, as the further out we get from it chronologically, the more buried it gets, which can make even a simple Google search a chore. I had to dig through like 2 pages of discourse about Jon Stewart's comments about the goblins from the novels and movies to find an article about the lazy naming of Cho Chang, for instance. Not to mention how pieces defending her / smearing her critics kept ranking higher in the results. Additionally, yeah, I'm going to own this. I have not been putting as much effort into this segment as I should have. I largely stuck to only the first page of Google results. I'd ask people on Tumblr or Discord to give me ideas on topics to use for this segment instead of doing it all by myself, which I do with pretty much everything else about this show except for the editing and the end credits. I ended up dropping a few possible topics for this segment because it turned out I'd remembered something wrong to varying degrees. I mean, like, I hate her, but lying about her is not going to accomplish anything. So yeah, I'm going to mention That Lady in Scotland, believing that 90% of her fans agree with her transphobic views but are just afraid to say it. A typically conservative view of things. Link in the show notes to verify that she actually said that. Of course, this means if you buy any Harry Potter merch going forward, or any of her other books, you are directly funding transphobic legislation, as her views have been cited by lawmakers in the UK and US, such as that really vicious and downright genocidal one from Texas you may have heard about recently. And part of the reason she has such a huge platform is because Harry Potter is still culturally relevant, because people are still buying stuff for it and still talking about it. Seriously, don't buy tickets to the new Fantastic Beasts movie or that Hogwarts Legacy game. Don't even pirate it. Don't talk about it. Just let it die. Because if she continues to make money off the Harry Potter IP, she'll be more certain she's right and will double down, and more trans, non-binary, and other gender non-conforming people will be hurt. Buying Harry Potter merch, keeping it culturally relevant, is contributing to fascist gender essentialism. Don't buy her pseudonyms books either. You know the one, the name she uses that just happens to be the same name as the guy who basically invented gay conversion therapy, which is considered torture in most civilized nations. Downvotes help shape corporate opinion. If there's a big enough drop-off in revenue for properties that Lady in Scotland owns, Warner Brothers will eventually cut her loose. Back to me, ending this segment on an admittedly harsh, but to my mind necessary note. This show not having a bonus segment per episode is actually not unusual. Seasons 2 through 5 didn't have anything in them along those lines. There was Season 1's What Does This Movie Have in Common with Stranger Things, and then Season 6 had the cool shark facts, but those are actually the outliers as far as this show goes. I'm not ruling out a bonus segment for Season 8, but as my late father used to say, we'll burn that bridge when we cross it. Final verdict. We're grading on a curve here, but by the standards set so far, this is the best movie of the set. In fact, if Kelly LeBrock had played Morgana a bit more campy and over the top, the way Veronica Hamill played the villain in The Last Leprechaun, I'd go so far as to recommend this movie to you people. As it stands, it's mostly mediocre family fare, much like the set has been as a whole, minus the waste of Rick Mayall's talents in Merlin the Return, or the transphobia in Dazzle. It's also sad to see just how far Robert Davi has fallen as an actor in the last 20 years. Which is to say, he used to be one. Now he's just a Fox News contributor with a SAG card. Pity. Well, next time we enter the back half of this season, thank goodness, that means it's almost over, with The Fairy King of R. Have fun. Stay safe.